welcome back to the Idiots Football Show with your host, Idiot Number One, Zach. How you guys doing? How you guys feeling? How you guys living? Hope everything's going good with you guys. So I'm just gonna get right into it. Today we had a development in the football world with defensive end Robert Quinn. He was traded from the Chicago Bears for a fourth-round pick to the Philadelphia Eagles. Excuse me. Now, as an Eagles fan, this is something I'm actually very excited about. We get to see a very strong team, the only undefeated team left, go out there and acquire some more defensive end depth. Something that really this team is kind of needed since the beginning of the year. A question mark for them is, whether or not Brandon Graham is going to hold up, Javon Hargrave is going to hold up, Fletcher Cox, Josh Sweat, just to make sure that we have another veteran piece in there that's really going to be able to perform and add as much, positional value as you can really get out of a player for his cost, especially at this time during the year. It's quite phenomenal. This is a guy, Robert Quinn, who did have 18 and a half sacks. Yeah, 18 and a half sacks for the Chicago Bears last year at his age 31 season. This is something that, although he's probably not going to be able to replicate numbers of that caliber, I am very excited to see a guy like that actually end up on Philadelphia, a guy who's had multiple 10-plus sack years in his career. It is very exciting. I really think that this is going to help tremendously with their depth and really add another piece to make that defensive line just seem absolutely relentless game after game after game, drive after drive after drive, series after series. I mean, this is just going to be a guy who's going to add to this defense and really make this defense even more viable than they've already been this year. This has been a defense that has seemingly been top 5 in almost every category you can think of between, stopping the run, stopping the pass, causing turnovers. I mean, they've just been that good. They've really been absolutely phenomenal. And to add a guy like this, add a all-pro caliber player, it really does help. Now, I get it. He's in his later years. He's 32 this year. This is year 12 in the league for him. 5th different team. I get it. There are some concerns here. He's a little older, maybe a little injured, but I couldn't be happier to get an older guy like this in on the Philadelphia Eagles defensive end rotation, where these guys are in and out, and really being able to maximize all their snaps every game. This is something that's very exciting for me. I'm very pumped about it, and I think all Eagles fans should be as well. I think going forward, this is going to be something that's going to be very special for our Birds. Now, obviously we see that Howie Roseman is all in this year. He's pushing his chips into the middle of the table because he wants to Scrooge McDuck it all at the end of the year. We all want that Super Bowl. And I really think that this is the type of team that can get it done, especially in a very, very weak NFC this year. So I wouldn't be surprised if this was just the beginning of, maybe a handful of Howie Roseman trades that really bolster the rest of this team. Now, there aren't too many other positions I would argue this team needs to go out and really look to acquire. Maybe something they decide they want to do is they decide they want to get do they want to shore up their kick punt return position, really get a special team specialist, which really wouldn't bother me all too much. I think that'd be something that definitely could add a little spark to the Eagles' fire. And I think another position that would be, so you'd be sorely mistaken to say the Eagles have an elite position group here, would definitely be the running backs. I think adding a little bit of running back depth, we saw that early in the season with Trey Sermon of the 49ers get cut from the Niners and end up on Philadelphia as a claim. But I really think that, guys like Kenneth Gainwell and guys like Boston Scott and guys like Miles Sanders, yeah, they're serviceable, but I don't think that they add the true value that a more of a stronger running back would definitely add. This team feels like they're, a true workhorse back, or not even a workhorse back, but a more of a power back away from really having everything you could need to make a Super Bowl run. And not even just having everything you can need, just being the absolute most complete roster in the entire NFL. I don't think that there's another team in the NFL that's as complete as Philadelphia is this season, and that's something that makes me ecstatic. Because you don't see a lot of teams like this, go out there and make little tiny moves like picking up Robert Quinn that are going to end up mattering so much come playoff time. And this is something that, maybe we'll see another trade or two, but I'm definitely thinking that we might pick up a guy in that running back slash punt returner, kick returner positions. So to move on here, I want to talk a little bit about the Bears. The Bears seem quite hopeless in Matt Eberflus's first season there. They really don't have a lot of talent outside of Roquan Smith and David Montgomery slash Khalil Herbert. So I have a hard time seeing, what are the Bears going to do here? They're going to tear it all down, which is something I really think they should do. Early in the season they had contract difficulties with their All-Pro middle linebacker Roquan Smith, and although he does love it up there in Chicago, he's been fighting to stay in Chicago. I have a hard time seeing how Chicago logistically can keep a guy like this around, a guy who makes as much money as he does, and a guy who just has as much positional value at the middle linebacking position as he does. I have a hard time seeing how a team, that isn't in it to win it wouldn't go, hey, you know what? We could pick up an all-pro middle linebacker or an all-pro caliber middle linebacker who could really help us on our playoff run. But the Bears really seem kind of hopeless here. I mean, I know they're coming off a pretty big win against the Patriots. I believe that score was 33-14. The Patriots, obviously they don't look like the Patriots of old. Bill Belichick's getting a little old. He's starting to be, he's getting up there. He's almost as old as my grandfather and my grandmother. It's unfucking believable that he's still coaching in the NFL, and especially at the caliber that he has been able to. But this Patriots team wasn't much to scoff at. They really weren't that spectacular, and neither is this Bears team. This Bears team is really running on fumes, and they don't have pretty much anything anywhere. Really, their running back position is their strongest position on the entire depth chart, and I have a hard time understanding why David Montgomery wouldn't be moved before the deadline. This is a team that has a very young running back in Khalil Herbert, a guy who we've seen excel at the running back position without David Montgomery during this year. I think it'd be very interesting if they moved on from Montgomery. A bunch of contenders could definitely use a guy like that. And, the Eagles did bridge that connection with trading for Robert Quinn. I have a hard time seeing why they couldn't trade for a guy like David Montgomery who could add a lot of positional depth to the Eagles. Really give Miles Sanders that 1-2 punch with a true power back in David Montgomery and a more of a speed back in Miles Sanders. I think that could add a lot of depth and a lot of value to the Philadelphia Eagles, along with any other team that would be out there in the market looking to trade for David Montgomery. Now, obviously, the Bears, there's not much for them to root for this year. Justin Fields is probably their only thing they're rooting for. And to be honest with you, I think he's kind of trash. But beyond that point, all I have to say to the Bears fans is better luck next year. Congrats on beating the Pats, because that is probably your season highlight. So, to move on, the Eagles are going to be taking on, in Week 8, the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, we did see that T.J. Watt is supposed to come off the IR on Wednesday, the 26th, same day that this podcast is being recorded. And will that add a lot? Will that be very helpful? If he plays, yes, it'll be helpful. T.J. Watt is an instant spark plug to the Pittsburgh Steelers. But to be honest with you, I have a hard time seeing how this Pittsburgh Steelers team is going to get past such a stout Philadelphia Eagles team who's really been able to batter any single opponent they've come in contact with this season. So I just wanted to kind of look at the lines here and see what was going on. What's Vegas thinking? So based on our FanDuel rankings here, we have for the game, it's minus 10.5 Philadelphia, and that's just going to be a line I have a hard time taking. I know the Steelers offensively have nothing going, and really without T.J. Watt, defensively have nothing going. But even then, it's still that in-state rivalry, and at the same time, these players are meant to be there for a reason. I have a hard time gambling on any kind of spread that's over 10, any double-digit spread that kind of scares me a little bit. So I have a hard time betting on the Eagles this week. I'm going to end up taking the plus 10.5 for the Steelers during the game to cover. But I did find an interesting line for the first half of the game. Really a time where the Eagles absolutely excel every single game. And for the first half, it's minus 6.5 for Philadelphia Eagles. And I think that's actually a line that they very well could easily hit. As the Steelers will have to figure out how to play against such a high caliber team, a team that they don't see every year, a team that really might take it to them. And I'm very excited for this game. Week 8, it'll be very relaxing. Everyone's going to be able to enjoy this game. I really think Philadelphia here has they got something special going on, and the Steelers don't got much going on. Maybe Kenny Pickett could pick it up, but I'm very interested to see how Philadelphia does this season and does going forward. So on that note, I'd like to thank everybody for listening to the Idiots Football Show today. I really appreciate it. And I'll be seeing you next time. Go Birds.